Hi, and welcome to today's Parent, where we connect with experts and provide you with information to make your parenting journey a bit more easier. My name is Christine Kasina, I'm your host, and today's show we are talking about kids and food. This show will be exciting for you, especially if you have a fussy eater at home. In studio today, we have Wangeshi Wandere Kihara. She is passionate about food, and she's known for her platform online, The Mothership with Mama Modoni. Wangeshi, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So let's talk about, first of all, the very basics. What is a balanced diet?
Well, I think we all learned that in school. The basic is carbohydrates, proteins, and vitamins. But if you want to elaborate that a bit more, then you can add things like fats, especially for kids, you need high fats and high ions, but healthy fats as well. You just can't add just random fats, but healthy fats. And dishes that are high in iron, because it's really easy for a baby, especially an infant below 1, to have iron deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to matters kids and food, what kind of challenges do parents present to you?
I think the biggest issue is fussy eating.
Fussy eating.
Fussy eating, and also what to prepare for their kids and what is age appropriate. Those are the two issues that I think most parents have.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to matters food, I'm just thinking like when we are pregnant and we're expecting our babies, does it affect their taste buds? When we start breastfeeding our kids, does it affect their taste buds?
Definitely. A kid's taste buds and preference for food starts being created from the time you're pregnant.
Right.
So the foods you eat when you're pregnant, the foods you eat when you're breastfeeding, that taste and the flavor and whatever it is that you're eating creates the palate that the child will have and the preferences that your baby will have for food. So it's always advisable when you're pregnant and also when you're breastfeeding to have a healthy and balanced diet with a wide array of food.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your preferences will affect your child's preferences.
Yeah.
So we'll find if a mother doesn't like, say, avocados, we'll find the kid will eventually, most likely, or maybe will not like.
The biggest one actually is like something like protein, especially during pregnancy. You'll find if you have an aversion to protein when you're pregnant, your baby will most likely either not like meat or actually have an allergy for meat.
Okay.
Yeah. Something as simple as that.
Okay.
But there are things which also as a parent, if let's say you don't like avocados or you don't like courgette or you don't like eggplants and whatever, the way that you can make your child not have the same problem is even if you didn't eat it during pregnancy and during breastfeeding, when you're weaning, you now need to be able to say that even if I don't like eggplant, like for example, I generally just don't cook eggplant in my house.
Right.
But as a mom, if it's something that you think is healthy for your child and you'd like your child to eat, serve it. Just because you're not eating and just because you don't like it doesn't mean that you have to transfer the same food preferences to your child.
That's a good
You can
point.
make your child eat healthier than you eat. Right. Especially during the first 2 years, that's the biggest time that you have to influence how your baby eats.
So the foundation you set it, especially within the first 2 years.
The first 2 years of your baby's life. So from pregnancy to the first 2 years.
Right.
And from 6 months now, when you start weaning to 2 years, that's when your baby will explore the most. That's when they'll eat anything. Like anything you serve them, they will eat. After 2 years is now when they start becoming picky eaters.
Right.
And they start having preferences and saying, I don't want this turkey, sitamu, this is not what,
Right.
But the first 2 years is when you have the biggest influence. And after 2 years, when they start becoming picky eaters, whatever foundation you set during the first 2 years is what they will always go back to.
Okay.
So even if, let's say, they say, I don't want to eat this, at the end of the day, whatever it is that you set during the first 2 years, if you set high fat and healthy foods and fast foods, that is what they'll go back to. If you set that we eat cassavas and domas and healthy foods, when they are hungry and when they decide to eat, that is what they will go back to.
Right.
Yeah.
So 6 months, we've talked about 2 years and below, but even before we get to 2 years, I know one of the major places where parents, moms especially, want to do a good job at is at weaning stage. So let's talk about weaning. What tips can you share when it comes to weaning, and how can moms and dads succeed at weaning?
The biggest thing first is to decide what weaning method you want to use.
We should start with actually, what is weaning?
Weaning is when, assuming that you did exclusive breastfeeding, 0 to 6 months. So at 6 months, you're supposed to introduce complementary. The word here is complementary food.
Complementary food.
meaning that breast milk or formula is still the main source of nutrition for the infant until the age of 1. So you introduce complementary food at 6 months. That is what weaning is.
Okay.
Generally, you'd start with 1 meal a day from 6 to 7 months, and then introduce a second meal.
So between, you said 6 and
7 months.
So
like
6 to 7 months. So you do your usual milk or formula, and then you introduce one solid a day. So it could be lunch or dinner
or breakfast, whatever it is that you find works best for you. And the amount of milk your baby takes should not reduce. It's a complementary dish. It is not a replacement of milk. Of breast milk or formula. At this point, your child still should not be taking any animal milk at 6 months.
So that means packet milk?
No.
Yeah.
The nutrition of a child, or the growth of a child is still highly dependent on breast milk at that point. Or formula, assuming that you're not able to give breast milk. So you give 1 meal, and then after 6 to 7 months, at around 7 months, you introduce a second meal. By around 9 months, 10 months, they should be on 3 meals. And by 1 year, they should be on 3 meals and 2 snacks.
3 meals and 2 snacks.
Yeah. By 12 months, around 12, 13 months. And then now from 12 months, you're free to introduce your animal milks. If they are allergic to animal milks, then you can do your soy milk or almond milk or whatever it is. Yeah, but before that, it should just be formula or breast milk.
You know, one person I know for sure struggles with, or could possibly struggle with weaning, is a new mom, totally has no idea what to do beyond, you know, having done 6 months of breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, or whatever they're complementing with. So for a new mom who wants to learn the best way, or a system of how they can wean, how does it go? When do you introduce what? What's the best way of going about it?
Okay, I just mentioned before that the first thing to decide is what method of what method of weaning you want to use.
So what method of weaning you want to use?
So there's traditional weaning, which basically means that you puree your food or you mash your food, and you give now that to your baby. The other way that you can choose to wean is using a method called baby-led weaning, which basically means you don't puree and you don't mash and you don't feed your baby.
What does that mean?
You prepare the food. That's a whole other episode.
All right.
But you prepare your food in an age-appropriate way. So for example, at 6 months, you'd slice your food. So if it's an egg, you'd fry your egg and then slice it in lengthwise, Or if it's a potato or whatever, you slice it lengthwise and you give to your baby to hold and feed themselves. If it's yogurt, you give them, like, there are special spoons that 6 months olds can take, and you can either dip it for them or they dip it for themselves. It's a very messy thing, actually.
You know, you've raised a very important point. So by the time a kid is 6 months old, they need to start practicing feeding themselves.
It depends, again, on the feeding method you use.
Explain.
With traditional weaning, you feed your baby. So you'd puree your food, you take your spoon, and you feed your child. With baby-led weaning, they feed themselves.
You know, I can just imagine how forever that is going to take.
And it takes long. Yeah, and it's very messy. But it's a method I used. It's very messy. It takes a lot of patience for both baby and mom. And it's not a method that you now start worrying, has the baby had enough? Because at that point, food is complementary. Right?
Because they're having their milk, of course.
They're still having their milk as normal. So if your baby was taking 1 liter of breast milk a day, they still need to be taking 1 liter of breast milk a day. So you really don't worry about how much they've taken in terms of food at 6 months. You worry about it later. But as the months go with baby-led weaning, the baby consumes more and they eat better and they stop throwing food more. And their coordination, their hand-eye coordination gets better. By 7 months, they'll eat better than they ate at 6 months. By 10 months, if you are slicing lengthwise like in a finger, by 10 months, you chop them up into small sizes, because by 10 months, their pincer grip, which is this, has gotten better. So they're able to pick the small food and put it in their mouth. So it's just a different way of teaching a baby how to eat. With traditional weaning, a baby swallows fast. With baby-led weaning, a child learns to chew and then swallow. With traditional weaning, first they learn how to swallow and then they learn how to chew, maybe at 10 months or at 1 year. Although it should be at around 10 months when you start teaching your child how to chew.
I'm wondering which one of these methods is better.
There's none that's better. It's just dependent on you as a mom or a dad, and your personality and the personality of your child, and what you prefer and what you find to be easier for you. I found baby-led weaning easier for me because, I don't have to puree food in the morning and carry food to wherever it is that I'm going. I'd go wherever it is that I was going, and they'd eat whatever it is that was there.
Okay.
They start at 6 months, which is normally around 26 weeks, I think 26, 27 weeks.
Right.
The new not new, it's actually a few years old, recommendation is that the 3-day rule is no longer applicable.
What's the 3-day rule?
The 3-day rule states that once you try a certain dish, and normally people start with a starch. So once you try potatoes today, you'd wait 3 or 4 days and try carrots and add carrots. And then wait 3 or 4 days and try maybe pumpkin.
Right.
The logic behind this back then was that you'd be able to tell whether a child is allergic to something or not. But with research over the last 10, 20 years or so has shown that an allergy can be seen on day 1 of somebody trying a new dish,
right,
or day 100 of somebody trying a new dish. So waiting for the 3 days really does not help in any way.
Right.
So that now the new recommendation is that you just don't do the 3-day rule. Right?
So what's recommended now?
You just try all the dishes from the beginning, and especially the high allergen foods, which previously you could not try maybe until 9 months to a year. So like eggs, peanut butter, shellfish, all these high allergen foods.
So now you can try them before 1 year?
At 6 months, actually.
At 6 months,
at 6 months,
right,
onwards.
6 months onwards.
The earlier research now shows that the earlier the high allergen foods are tried on a baby, the less likely they are to develop
allergen later.
Let me just say something about peanut butter and all nut butters. Never offer a nut butter in a spoon to your baby who's below 5. It's a choking hazard. As an adult, when you put like bread with peanut butter in your mouth, you find how sticky it is in your palate.
Yes, that's true.
So with a child, they're not aware or don't really know how to work it around in their mouth, so it's very easy for them to choke. So if you're serving peanut butter to your baby, take a very thin slice and put it on your bread or on your cracker or on your apple, a very thin slice. That way they're able to work with it in their mouth. Okay. Yeah.
That's good advice. So which other tips can you share with new moms, especially when it comes to weaning?
I think the biggest thing is to plan ahead and don't stress about it. Yeah, don't stress about it. Plan ahead. Decide that this week this is what we're going to eat. I loved freezing food. Honestly, I loved freezing food. So if today I would make my daughter minced meat and spinach and pasta, for example, I'd make 2 batches, serve her one today, stick one in the freezer. Because next week there's a day that your child will be having a growth spurt and you have no time to sit. And that time you can just go to the freezer, pick whatever it is that's there, and you don't have to worry about cooking food on that day. If you're a working mom and it's really important for you to cook food for your baby, you can cook the night before,
right,
for the next day, or maybe even prepare all the food on a Sunday and stick it again in the freezer, and then you just tell your nanny that today this is what the baby is going to eat. Have a timetable. Today we are going to have rice and this, tomorrow is ugali, the next day is this vegetable. The other thing is, I find that as adults, we really try and plan our dishes around the starch.
Right.
So we say, today we are cooking ugali, what are we going to cook ugali with? But for my baby, sometimes I try and say, today I'm going to make spinach for her. So you start with the veg and then decide what's going to go with that veg. That way at least the baby has a better relationship with vegetables than I had. Yeah.
That's a good point. And the one thing that you've said that is very reassuring for a new mom, because I know a lot of us, when we're new moms, we wanted to give our babies fresh food all the time. And you can imagine for a working mom, that can be such a hassle. And it's reassuring that you can do your bulk cooking over the weekend and then just find a way to freeze it and have a timetable and share with that, share with the help, that timetable as well. So when it comes to actually, before we go on the break, when it comes to giving our babies, our kids, frozen food, for how long should it be in the fridge for how long? How long is too long in the freezer?
Some things I find like they're really personal preferences. Personally, I only used to put food in the fridge for maybe 2 or 3 days and in the freezer for maximum of a month. But when you Google and see what now people have researched and said, they'll tell you 6 months to a year. But it's not something that I find as Mama Mudhoni to be workable in my home. So the best thing is to do what is workable in your home. But again, don't do it for more than maybe 4 to 6 months in the freezer. 4 to 6 months. And then another thing also with weaning is to remember that food is complementary. I said that before. The main source of nutrition for a baby under 1 is milk or formula. So if you're having a bad day as a mom and there's dishes and the baby, you've had a bad night with the baby, or maybe the baby is unwell, there's clothes to iron, there's clothes to wash,
There's
Just
so much as a
breastfeed.
mom.
Just breastfeed for that day. Tomorrow is a new day. Don't feel bad about it. Don't beat yourself up and say, oh my God, today my baby didn't eat. Just reassure yourself and know that you're doing great. I'm doing a great job. I've done all this. Today I'm overwhelmed, but tomorrow I'll feed my baby. Today we can just breastfeed and it's okay.
Well said.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break. In studio today we have Wangeshi Wandere Kihara of the Mothership with Mama Mudhoni, sharing wonderful tips when it comes to feeding your children and matters weaning. We are going to take a short break and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Today's Parent. On today's show, we are talking about kids and nutrition. And before we went on the break, we had a question that came in from Leonard in Kakamega. And his question is, what if my child has neophobia? What is neophobia? Neophobia is when your child has a fear of trying new foods. Wangeshi, what's your tip for Leonard in Kakamega?
First and foremost is do not tire from offering whatever it is. Let's assume what you're offering is carrot, for example. So offer it. Offer it and offer it and offer it and offer it even 100 times.
Even when the kid refuses, the baby
Just
refuses,
offer it.
keep offering it.
Just offer. At one point, hopefully, somewhere in the future, the baby will take. Another way you can do it is to let the baby play with the food. So, for example, you've given rice and carrots. Okay, try and not mix if you know they don't like.
Okay.
So rice, carrots, potatoes, and something, whatever. All those are starches. Anyway, it's an example.
Okay.
So there's carrots there. Tell them to build something with the carrots. So let's say you're building a tower, or let's build a house with the carrots. They are likely to taste it if they're building and playing with it. You're not forcing them to eat. You're just telling them, let's play with it.
Right.
Another thing you can also try is to try and prepare this dish in a way that's similar to something else. Still working with carrots. So let's say they like fries. So normally you cut your fries in finger-like manners. So you cook fries today. Tomorrow, slightly deep fry your carrot. Tell them, oh, these are also chips. They are yellow chips.
Right.
So today they'll eat chips. Tomorrow you'll offer chips still. And then the next day you do chips, potato chips and a carrot chip. And then you tell them, oh, let's try this carrot chip. Let's see what it's like. If they taste it and they don't like it, just leave it. Tell them, okay, now let's build. After a few more days, again, do the same thing. Today we're making chips. Come, we make chips. Tell them to help you chop. Also, another thing, prepare food with your babies. It really helps them.
So get them involved.
Get them involved. Come, we cook chips. So you chop it up with them. Let them see it going to the fire, coming out. Try it. Then from there, now you've given potato chips and carrot chips. Then now, after a while, now you remove the potato chip from the mix and give the carrot still as a chip, assuming they've taken it as a chip.
Right.
Then from there, now you give it in the way that you'd prefer to give it. If you'd prefer to toss it in, let's say, butter or olive oil, or you'd prefer to just boil it, whichever way that you want to use it, after they've already eaten it as a chip, after that, now you give it in the manner in which you'd prefer to serve it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that works for anything. So even if, let's say, you want to do mashed potatoes and you want to give carrot as a puree, give them mashed potato, mash the carrot next to it, give a story about it, tell them to build a well with the carrot puree and to put soup or to put water and to see what will happen.
So make it fun.
Yeah, make it interesting. It's not a chore and it's not a must. Nothing. Whether they eat the carrot or not, it's not life or death. Just make it fun, make it interesting, and just don't tire and don't look frustrated in your face that they've not eaten a carrot and you.
So they pick that energy from you.
No, it's not a big deal. No, you don't eat. It's fine. Let's eat whatever it is that else I've served on the plate.
Right.
Yeah.
So what other tips can you share when it comes to fussy eating for moms and dads out there who are fussy eaters?
Prepare food with your babies.
So number one, get them involved.
Yeah, get them involved in terms of cooking. If you can also do planting with them, let them see the food grow, let them harvest. Like if it's a carrot, for example, it's very easy to grow a carrot even from a gonia thing. Let them take it to the kitchen, prepare the food. I think I've given all of them. Prepare the food with them. Don't tire. Offer and offer and offer. Nothing is an emergency. If they don't want to eat, just leave them. They'll come back later. Set meal times. If breakfast is offered at 8, lunch is offered at 12 or 1, supper is offered at 6, let it stay like that.
So structure is also important.
Yeah, structure is very important. And if they don't eat something at 7, the next meal time is 10 o'clock. We're not going to come back here at 9 o'clock and say that I'm hungry. You wait for 10 o'clock, have your snack. If you refuse your snack, lunchtime is at 12. Because if you don't have structure, the other thing is that all your meal times are going to be pushed forward. So if a baby doesn't eat breakfast at 8 and then they eat breakfast at 10, it means they're not going to have their lunch properly at 1.
Yeah.
Because they're still full from
breakfast, from
which is
late
heavy.
breakfast.
Yeah. And then after that, maybe they know that they'll have a fruit or have a snack, then have yogurt. Then they won't eat lunch. So it becomes a whole, you're always trying to catch up and the baby is always grazing through the day. The child does not know what it is like to be really hungry.
Yeah.
The child does not know that there's lunch and there's snack and there's dinner and there's all these times. The other thing is you need to know as a parent is, your job as a parent is to decide what your baby is going to eat and what time they're going to eat.
So you're the one as a parent who makes the decision.
What to eat and what time to eat.
What and what time.
Your baby decides if they'll eat.
Never
You can't
force. And never force.
Yeah, never force. It creates a negative relationship with
between food and...
Yeah. Also try and give your babies choices. You're not really giving them a choice, but you're giving them a choice.
Give us an
example. So
you
decide, for example, it's snack time and I want to give a fruit. And the baby will say, Mimi, skule fruit. No, no, no. You tell them it's okay. Are you going to have a strawberry or a banana? Then they'll choose. It's them to choose. You already decided, but in their mind, they think it's me who's choosing. But already as a parent, you've decided. So they choose whatever it is that they want to eat. And when they choose and they know that it's within their power, it's easier for them to just eat because they don't feel like something is being forced down their throat. And they feel like the power is with them. Really, it's not. Again, whatever it is that you give them from the beginning is what will always be their preference when they are older. Structure. As in, whatever it is that you envision for your baby, just start with that at 6 months.
Right.
But then it's also never too late. Kids really like to copy. So if they say they want to have, like this useless snacks my daughter likes, they have nothing.
Same as mine.
Mine. I don't even think they have carbohydrates, as in they're useless. But she loves them. But good thing, she also really likes fruits and she'll eat cheese and all these other things. Again, because at 6 months, the structure I created and whatever it is I created is what she's always going to come back to.
Right.
Sometimes she'll say, oh, mommy, give me money, I go to the shop to buy. So she'll go and buy, and then she'll come back and find me eating an orange. And because I'm eating an orange, she'll eat an orange. So if your baby is 2 or 3 and unfortunately you are not able to create that structure at 6 months, just serve the food, eat, and tell them you're eating. And if they don't want to eat, they'll eat at some point. Because they really like to copy and they really like to do what mom or dad is doing or do what their caregiver is doing. And when they eat, and if it's something that's new, let's say they never eat oranges, but they always like to eat corn puffs, for example. So this time that they eat oranges, praise them. And kids love to be praised. Oh, wow, you've eaten oranges. You're going to grow up to be so strong. Look at you. Even your hair has grown now because you've eaten oranges. And tomorrow they'll remember that, oh, mommy was so happy or daddy was so happy when I did this. And tomorrow also they'll be able to do the same.
I don't know how you can help parents when it comes to, and kids love, your fast foods. But how can we give them a foundation where that the only thing they don't think about over the weekends is that it's time for fried chicken and your chips and of course in moderation it's fine.
Healthy food is fun. Then your baby will always want to have the healthier food that's tastier, that's more healthy and that's more interesting for them. I think it's okay to have fried chicken and it's okay to have fries and it's okay, right? To have
healthy food and junk.
If it's once a week, it's okay. You can't be working the whole week and again at lunchtime on Sunday you want to come and cook lunch and then still cook a healthy dinner. If it's not something that's within your power as a parent on that day, I think it's okay to offer in moderation. But also to teach your baby that it's okay to eat this, but this is... finding a balance. Yeah, just find a balance. And always just try and offer the better food and make it interesting for them. So that even when they sit and ask... The other day I met a baby who was asked, do you want fries or pasta? And they said pasta. And I was like, oh, wow, whose baby are you?
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So just make it interesting for them so that they always choose the healthier option. But also teach them that this other option is not that it's more interesting. It's just an option. So my top 4 tips on how to... feed your baby, especially a fussy eater, is first and foremost start at 6 months. However it is that you'd like to feed your baby, start at 6 months. Whatever structure you'd like to create, whatever program you'd like to create in terms of time, in terms of what to feed your baby, start at 6 months. The first 2 years of your baby's life in terms of food is very important. You create their palate, you decide what things they'd find interesting. So the more junk you feed them, the more sugar you feed them below 2 years.
That is what they're going to like.
That's what they're going to like. Another tip, don't bribe your baby. Don't tell them, oh, eat this and then we do this. Do this and then we do that. No, just tell them it's time to eat. And if you eat, it's fine. If you don't eat, it's fine. It's okay. Number 3, try and balance your meals. Vitamins, carbohydrates, proteins. There's also a rule that I like to call FFP. FFP. Fiber, fat, and protein. So when you're giving a dish, try and have all 3 of those incorporated into the dish. FFP. Fiber, fat, protein. And for a snack, at least try and have 2. So, for example, if it's a snack and you're giving an apple, you can give an apple and spread a bit of peanut butter.
Right.
That actually incorporates all 3, fiber, fat, and fruit.
Okay.
That will keep them fuller for longer. It will give them more energy. It will give them more nutrients instead of just giving just a simple apple. Those are 3 tips.
Right.
4th tip is don't force your baby to eat.
Don't force your
baby to eat. Make food fun. Make it interesting. Make it, it's not a matter of life. Yeah, it's not a matter of life and death. If they don't want to eat spinach, for example, it's okay. Tell them tomorrow we'll try again. If it's something new that you've offered, you can tell them, for example, most of us eat spinach. We'll talk about eggplant again. If today they've refused to eat eggplant is biriganya. If today they've refused to eat eggplant, don't tell them you've refused to eat. Don't tell them that. Just tell them something like, oh, this is new. We can try again tomorrow.
Right.
Don't make it look like, and don't label them. My baby is a picky eater. No, that's not my child. Because if you give them a label of picky eater, if you give them a label of mtoto wangu ukataa kukula, mtoto wangu anasumbua, and they start to hear, and they hear, and by the time they are 2-3 years, they've had it and had it and had it so much that they now start to own the label.
And Milton is just a challenge.
Mimi skulangi, just let it just be. It's open. It's nothing. There are no labels. There's nothing being forced. There's no emergency. Things will work out and they'll work out slowly.
And kids know when they're hungry?
Kids know when they're hungry, especially if you create structure. But if mealtime is 8, if breakfast time is 8 o'clock and you give them breakfast at 10, then they won't know that they're hungry when it's time for lunch. Let them know how to feel hunger. Let them know how to feel thirst. That way they also create a better relationship with food because they know that now it is time to eat. And when you give space between meal times, it is also easier for them to eat better when that set meal time comes. And give water. Small babies also don't need water, a lot of water. That is between 6 months and a year, 40 ml to 60 ml is enough, especially because, again, I'd said before, food is complementary. Breast milk is still what they should be taking most of, right. And breast milk is generally just water.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of Today's Parent. In today's episode, we were talking about healthy eating, how we can set a good foundation when it comes to healthy eating habits for our kids. And if you had fussy eaters at home, I hope you found this show to be very useful. We were here in studio at Little Cribs, the home of exciting, affordable, and durable kids furniture. If you're looking for parenting tips, including healthy recipes for your baby, head on to www.supermamas.co.ke. I have been your host, Christine Casina. See you next time.